Okay, now you're talking about the final one. New referent of mind, visual of a human body. Perfect. In fact, yesterday Ashadi made a very important point to which I did not focus much. She asked the question that the entire body is the mind, something like that. Right, Ashadi? Remember? Yeah. Yeah. That comes to a very classic debate also. If you look into the history of philosophy in the world, a great lot of philosophers, especially Greek philosophers, wasted a lot of time on a topic called the mind-body problem. Perhaps Meenakshi might know that. The mind-body problem. It is called the mind-body problem. All lot of philosophers made a lot of discussions on that. It all began with the Plato statement that a sound body, so a sound mind is in the sound body or something like that. From that, a whole lot of debate started. What is the connection between body and mind? Entire body is our mind. As I also mentioned the other day. People try to locate mind somewhere. Okay, it is processed in the brain. No doubt. Not only mind, the digestion process, the hormonal process, the muscular process, all the processes are coordinated in the brain only. It is not that brain is exclusively in charge of something called mind. No. Mind is spread across every cell of the body. That's why the other day, like Ramesh also pointed out, the ghost flesh. You come across a marvelous sight, ripples go down the entire body, and every hair of the body stands up. Okay. Or another simple example. Somebody is okay, takes about 2-3 packs of intoxicant liquor, then he starts talking all kinds of things. Why? A lot of people get, according to them, some courage and confidence if they take liquor. Why? It is a chemical. It goes on and works in the dopamine levels of the brain. So the entire body is energized. That is why the so-called yoga positions. What is yoga position? A lot of people do not understand this. They are trained, but it's very difficult for normal people to understand that the body is the mind. Very difficult. If you explain that, then yoga positions will work out better. Now they are simply sitting, nothing happens. Of course, every yoga has its philosophical implications. Every mudra, mudra of the hand, etc., has its meaning, but people don't understand that. They are all just blindly duplicating the way of sitting. That's why millions of people are doing yoga. Nothing basically happens to them because they do not know what they are doing. Unless our attention goes into the details and capture the essence of it, it will not be translated into our being. They are all doing, but that doing is not translated into the state of being. That's why you need to do even so-called yoga under a so-called master. He might explain it to you. Why you should be sitting in so-called Padmasana. Why Padmasana is called Padma itself? Padmasana itself. So I really wonder how come Parvati so quickly coming into mind as the body. What made her arrive at that conceptual? So can you say a few words about that? How could you arrive at that seemingly distant, sudden jump into a conclusion that mind is the body?
I really don't know. That's what I said. It was actually a wow moment for me.
Oh,
I
okay, okay,
it just
clear.
happened.
When you said wow moment, you have said that's all. But anyway, yesterday you were not present. We had arrived at this point by a systematic interpretation of something also. But a systematic interpretation and arriving at that and getting this wow is totally different. But Ashwati, do you remember why you asked that question? You also said not exactly like this. You asked the question. What is that? Is mind
Yes,
in
sir.
every cell of the body or something like that?
Yes, sir.
You asked the question whether mind is in every cell of the body. That
Yes.
came because you talked about sensing.
Yes, sir. I also said I can feel the mind in my head region, but in the other parts of the body, I don't know. And because I related it to sensing also, yes.
Yeah, from that sensing only we came to the total body. Because then I said, you sense a sound in the ear. But what about sensing just a touch by a feather on the back of your foot? A feather tip is touching the back of your foot, you will sense it. That's all very easily explained in a mechanical way by the Western anatomy. There also the brain is available. Brain is not that thing inside the skull alone. Brain has its tentacles reaching every point of the cell through the large assemblage and distribution of nerve fibers. That itself is enough to prove that the mind is spread across the entire assemblage of the cells of the body. So treat your body, because body is a work of art of the universe process. Appreciate that art and appreciate its philosophy and appreciate its mission, why this body is here. You may look at unconsciously, you may have a perception about entire humanity, thousands and millions of people. They are all living very normally, they are doing all kinds of things and all that. So seemingly there is no purpose, especially for the purpose of existence is said to be only with some Aristotle or Plato or Mahatma Gandhi or Tagore or somebody like that. Yeah, in a way it is true. So they make remarkable existences, well known. There may be many other unknown remarkable existences, like I told you about the Zen masters. And you should not be affected by the theory, like when you said, to defeat your own possession of a highly evolved state of being by putting in a theory that if you are very evolved, people will come to know about this. Let me say, nobody may know also. A rose is a rose is a rose because a rose is a rose. So do not wait for anybody else's recognition and appreciation. If it happens, okay, thank you. That's all. Because Mount Everest cannot be accessed by
It's
everybody. It's so simple as that.
22:30.
So when you reach where it is the Everest of the physical, or if it is the Everest of the non-physical or metaphysical, the story is the same. Do you think all those people who are flocking in the ashrams or to all those people, they understood all those people? No, they're all very well known. People say they are very well known. That's why they go there. They don't know anything about it. Because who identified Satya Sai Baba? Poor local villages. Their original natural sensitivity only identified his wonder. So they gathered around and stories were out, and then the entire population came, and the so-called rich and influential power-mongering people took him out, and the poor people are out. That's a different story. Who identified Sudhamani? I mean, Amardantamai? Local people only. Who identified Jesus? Some 10, 15 fishermen only. Who identified Ramana Maharshi? Some local shepherds only. So that's an internal theory unconsciously operating inside you. It's very likely because when you go to a high degree, everybody appreciated you. They know about your values, your difference, your quality, etc., etc. So therefore, there could be a tendency to make people aware that you are someone wonderful. Get out of that theory. But that is for your personal agreement. But I am sure people will know you and take that role when it is required, if it is coming on your way. Don't deny that role. Because you have now the real strategy. You have the proper referent reality perception based language to make people see at least what they want to see. All right. Anything else today? So remember the critical points of interpretation. The critical point that most of the human behaviors are guided by some theories which they themselves may not know. If you want to change somebody, you have to work on the theory that is guiding the expressions and responses and behaviors and actions of those people. Try to understand the principle, the driving theory of a certain people and their behavior towards you or to their behavior towards other people. But theory is just a word, as I said. It is a certain idea, a certain vague idea, a certain vague principle. These are all the language which we use to capture that mental process, that's all. So get rid of all the broken theories and install a new theory about your existence. Always achieve that flexibility of your process. Be eternally flexible, but strategically, of course. Be strategic. And in general, out of all this interaction in the sessions, you have to work out a theory for your own evolution also, for which you have to discover the basic principles of your understanding. So now you have theory of the mind, now you have some theory about the body, which we discussed. Some theories about intellect will come. Of course, we will focus very strongly on the theory of mental traps, in the sense that You have to start any interaction, any significant interaction with the public, I mean an audience, if possible, by reference to mental traps. Because unless and until the mental traps are resolved, no idea will work. Like Anurag pointed out, the ripples are stopped. Mental traps. The mind becomes rigid, the sixth block. The mind becomes afraid of the unknown and the ambiguous and the strange and the unexpected. It is based on a theory, some unconscious theory trained in the childhood. The second mental trap of centricity and conformity, I have to be abiding by the majority opinion or the powerful people's opinion, etc., etc. The theory of failure. If I am failed, I am a useless person. A most working theory. Nobody is ready to be a failure. Even a beggar is not ready to be a failure. When the gods have failed, when their own gods have failed, either on the cross or by the shot of a hunter in the forest, they don't want to be failures. Failure does not mean failure in action. If I don't have that much of a bank balance, I am a failure. If I don't have this model of a car, I am a failure. What happened to that motor vehicle inspector? He was given a 12 lakh rupee worth brand new car, but he wanted an Innova car. That led to the murder of that girl. So many, 2, 3, 4, 5 incidents in Kerala. So all based on some stupid theory about social status and social possession. See, do you think they are fundamentally criminals? No, they are all victims. Certain stupid theories work against their integrity. He is a brilliant student, this Kiran Kumar. He studied in NIT.
So, sir, is it possible not to theorize?
But whether you theorize it consciously or not, some theory will inevitably coincide in your intellect process, because nevertheless it's an intelligent machine. A lot of process, Ganesh. So, but you can definitely detach from it by not being the. There can be great positive theories. What is a theory? A set of principles or a set of ideas that will guide your expression, your response, your of a greater quality on one side, poor quality on the other side. So theory is not that consciously made, of course not. And that conscious theory is the theories in established academic subject matters, of course. The theories in physics and chemistry and maths and management and literature and all those things. There are even theories about poems. I had a dispute. My discussion with Mandra Rishiga on the YouTube has been criticized severely, to such an extent that I had to close the comment section. Because there was a question in her textbook. The poet follows what principle in writing a certain line? I told her, poet is not looking for a principle. Okay, let me apply this principle and then write my. No, it comes to him. It is the observers who find the principle in that. And the observers have a certain sense also there, Ganesh. But it is not consciously made. It automatically happens there, and an observer can find a certain principle in that. Observer can locate a certain idea running across that, a so-called a common factor, like like the theory. If you want to test potatoes in a bag, you take one potato, then you assume that the entire potatoes are okay. So that unconscious theory making, we name it as a theory, but nevertheless it is possible. Because if an idea is guiding your response or a behavior or a series of activity, that principle has to be maintained in order to sustain that activity, Ganesh. It is like you keep
so it is
it is like
unavoidable, that means.
yeah. It is almost like you keep a topic in your mind and you go on talking for 3 hours. That is, Satyamev Jayate is a principle, and you can talk for 3 hours. Similarly, you have a principle about how you should be as a leader manager.
Yeah, but is it then not necessary for us to validate the correctness of that?
That depends upon the kind of theory. In a way, your question is in a slightly different direction. Actually, if you look at interpersonal dialogues, interpersonal conversations, everyone, in at least in a given situation, every participant in that conversation unit of 4 or 5 people, they're all trying to arrive at a theory to explain the phenomenon. Why the government is like this. Now, entire media people and people in Kerala is discussing about why this happened. A lot of YouTube items are there about the dowry system, about all. They're all trying to arrive at a theory to explain this. Because that so-called theory or principle helps human beings to explain a phenomenon and to feel it's a kind of a curiosity. You don't have to explain it. Murder happened is a murder happened. But if you understand the theory, principles behind it, perhaps you can guide the society, like somebody is doing. Get out of the dowry system. So, theory forming is a highly brilliant intellectual activity. Okay, it may happen in a criminal, it may happen in a beggar, it may happen in a illiterate person, it may happen in a genius also. A genius is not entirely different from the ordinary person. Only thing is that his work, his expressions, his self-image, his conception of the world is of a very higher order theory, let's say so.
Yeah.
But a theory and sometimes a report of a fact may look more or less the same also. So there is possibly a central force which is working behind the phenomenon in the world. Like seeds are flying away and falls on the ground. They are sprouting and blooming, and again it is continuing. And the cats and the birds and all these things are surveying. So there is a central principle in the universe that becomes possibly a statement of a fact as well as that as a theory also. So theory, if like academic theories, they are a little bit rigidly conceptualized. For example, a leadership theory, transformation leadership. It has become a theory. Anyway, that's known as a theory. In fact, a leader is capable of transforming the perception of people. You call him a transformation leader. And there are a lot of books. There are books on transformation leadership. So, why the theory is formed? The person who created that so-called theory, he might have observed some leaders, and he has conceptualized in a certain way so that the theory can be given to some people so that they will translate it into doing. That is all. You don't need to do that theory also. Instead of using the concept of theory and the transformation leadership, you can tell people, tell a group of leaders that you have to try to get a transformation of people's mindset and their attitudes and values about whatever. But then there is a tendency maybe to differentiate my perspectives,
It's
so that so he identifies a certain principle in that different from some other principle. So he calls it what you call transformation leadership, but there's a theory on transformation leadership. Then there is servant leadership. Then there is result oriented. No, there are more than some 46, 50 theories on leadership. So I have created a theory called genius leadership. So that is to convey quickly a precise body of sort of knowing, so that other people can quickly expand it and reinterpret it and incorporate it in their actions. So whatever works like that, you can name as a theory also. That's all. What is a theory? That's the referent of theory. The concept sense of theory, like Parvathy pointed out, just a set of ideas or principles or something like that. It ends up as a principle. Again, another word we use to qualify that. That's all.
Master, I have a question. And the question is about the intention of the exercise which you gave us, where we were asked to write an original theory of our mind. So our theory of our mind.
Yeah.
So I wrote my theory of my mind based on how I think of the principles that guide me.
Okay.
And the way I see my mind operating and how it supports me. So now after this conversation, I'm thinking your purpose in making me write my theory of my mind is also for me to look at it from a detached perspective and make corrections in that theory of my mind so that I grow as a person.
Of course,
Is
of
that
course,
correct?
of course, of course. Not necessarily corrections. I don't think you will write a wrong idea because you're reporting something that you directly experienced. So there won't be anything
Yes.
to correct. There'll be a lot of things to add on. That's all.
Okay.
Explain it. That's all.
Yeah, why I use the word correct was taking from what Vinay asked.
Just a minute. And then it will go into the same. Okay. All right. Why not to Vishukun? Yeah. All right. Yeah, proceed. I was telling Mandra to make dosa. All right. Come on. Okay.
Yeah. So why I used the word correct was taking from the very pertinent question Vinay asked. That can a theory be limiting?
Okay.
So in that sense, I felt when I explain my theory, probably it also reveals my limitations, and those can be corrected so that I'm able to.
I don't think so. If there are something like that, that you may have to revise it. That's all. It is not correcting. This also, see the word I used.
Yes.
Correcting involves revising. So
Yeah.
revising is a better word than correcting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So do not tell people to correct themselves because that is intimidating.
Yeah.
Because from very early childhood, the parent, even the very beloved parents have proved that the child is wrong.
Mm.
That is where they made a mistake. You have
But
to
that assignment was.
Yeah. So the teachers say it is wrong.
Yes. That's the word they use.
Yeah.
And that too
So
to a young mind.
forget about that should not be in your dictionary, in your language of communication to people.
Understood.
Okay, say something different, say something else, do something else, come on, show that, etc., etc. All right, you know. I don't. I don't think there'll be anything even to revise, Minashi. There'll be a lot to interpret and explain and to add on to that. There may be missing elements. That's all. That's quite possible because you experiencing it, you can directly say. That's what I asked the Parvati. How did you come to the sudden conclusion that the mind is the body? Then she said, even before that, she made that in the process I had a moment of woe.
It was a very
But what?
interesting exercise.
Yeah, but definitely, it was not interesting exercise. It is evolutionary exercise because you are
Yeah,
doing it on your mind. Yeah.
yes, and I've made several corrections. Every time I go and revise it a bit.
But what Vinay said is fundamentally important for the other people. Because a great lot of people, why there is depression? Depression is the greatest virus infection today in the world. More than 90% of the people are suffering from depression. It is based on some unconscious theories. My life is lost. My future is lost. Everything is lost. The meaning about life is lost. How can they say so? Recently, there's a DW documentary. DW is something. It's a German official TV channel. They do wonderful documentaries. They have done interviews with a lot of students. They are all feeling terrible. Dangerous situation. It is only about to be 2 years. They are almost entering on neurotic phase. It's actually due to an unconscious theory operating also. What is all the so-called divorce, interpersonal conflict? You analyze. Every interpersonal conflict is definitely driven by so-called what Vinay said, blocking theories only. As a researcher, I have two experiences. The first girl who came with me, I told her I am a different individual. I will be living under the trees. She and said, I am ready to live with you in a hut anywhere on the roadside. But how gradually she developed more and more theories. So by a certain theory, someone falls in love, and by certain other theory, someone gets out of love. But like Ganesh Raman said, there is a state beyond theories. Like when the feudal chief and his team come appear before the master and says, "This is your child, illegitimate child. We never expected something like this from a reverend master like you." Okay, oh yes, give that child to me. There was no theory. It was just accepting the ongoing reality. Because what is Zen mind? We say it's a mind of no mind. There are no theories. Is any theory is also a mindset, okay? Because it is beyond. There are all possible because the Zen master is absolute intellectual giant. They can create theories about anything in the world. But he goes beyond every theory. His own theories. Oh, is she my child? All right, give it to me. And he takes care of that child because it's a little baby. It needs care and compassion. So he gives it fully. After 8 months, they come and say, sorry, we give the child back. Oh, take it. He did not accept the child because of the Zen mind. I have a Zen mind, therefore I should accept and all that. No. This is what Ganesh also implied, I suppose. So you can that's a very high state. But a normal state, because when you are a spontaneous creature in the world, what theory, what, you are just free, absolutely flowing. It will like a waterfalls. It will flow through any nook and corner. If there is a rock, okay, I will go this way.
Because living by a theory sounded like not being fluid. It sounded contrary to it.
But that is because you consider certain theories. That's it. It is not consciously going by a theory, but let us say, in fact, generally we can say every Muslim is living by a theory, rigidly following a theory. If you are a female, you must wear the parda. If you are a Muslim, you must go and do that. That's a pure theory guiding them. We look at theory just as a concept because I had to use the word theory of mind. That means you have to arrive at some principles of the mind. If I said the principles of the mind, I think they will be much more blocked. I think they may not get any idea at all. Because the word principle is a little complex, a little vague, a little ambiguous, a little sharper. So theory of mind. So it is easily accessible. Though it is a complex word, everyone understands. Especially educated people, you are all educated, they understand that. They understood it very clearly, therefore they took it for granted and they did not do a referent reality analysis of the concept of theory. So they just left it and straight away went to mind. That's all. But not in that rigid sense, Ganesh, as I said. When you discuss with somebody, you will know that there is a certain principle, certain idea. Theory means an idea. What is an idea? The word idea means literal meaning in the dictionary itself is mental impression. Certain mental impression is guide. So today, you did not bring a present for me. So suddenly the mental impression is that being my birthday today, you don't love me. So without telling that, that's based on some kind of a quick idea, quick kind of we can say theory, because a theory guides. That's what a theory does in academic subjects, like theory of rocketry or theory of mechanical engineering, theory of design, theory of architecture. So they have to follow certain theories, but that is in scientific fields. Nevertheless, there are some kind of a theory in the science of common existence also, which enables people to arrive at observations and conclusions. That's all.
Yep.
Not necessarily a mechanical assertion guided by a certain theory. No. Perhaps there are a lot of hypocrites. I know what you asked. A lot of hypocritic people are there. Because I am this, I must be like this. Because I am born to this caste, I must be behaving like this. They are clearly aware and they are guided constantly by that feeling. I know. Living in Bihar, I know. Clearly. I am a Brahmin, therefore I should not allow this person. Constant, conscious guidance. It is not even automatic.